Hey guys, how you doing today? This is Gilbert with Interactive Utopia, and today we're going to be taking we're going to be trying to take an approach on how to find the angles of lines that are drawn by Canvas in HTML5 and JavaScript. First and foremost, I would like to say again, my name is Gilbert with Interactive Utopia. We handle web development projects, and it will be my pleasure to assist you if you ever were to need my help. Now that that's out of the way, let me go ahead and show you really quick what I am talking about when I'm saying finding angles. So, we just have, really simple application. It's just a canvas on a web page with a button, and that's going to allow us to find the angles of whatever lines get drawn. So let's, for example, find the angle. So we're just going to set up one line. You can see on the right side on the console, the angle of the last line is 168 degrees. All right. You gotta remember full math. When it's all the way straight, that's 180 degrees all the way. When it's square, that's 90 degrees, and then the whole circle would be 360 degrees. We're taking the lines based out of a point and the idea that they're on a circle. That way we can find the angle out of it, and I'll show you the function that makes everything happen. Once we have set up the first point and we get the line of the first point, then we can draw a second line. The angle of the second line, it's 29 degrees. So if you can imagine if you had a flat line here, that'll be 29 degrees. And then the angle between the two lines, so this angle, that would be 41 degrees. It's not all the way 45. You remember, like a section of a square, that would be 90, then half of it would be 45, which is, seems to be about right. So how does this all work? You can take a look at my GitHub account. I have the code set up in there, so you can download it and give it a try. But basically, we use two main things to make this happen. JavaScript already has these functions integrated in it, so we don't need the packages or anything like that. A math function called a tan2, and as you can see, the function returns the angle in the plane in radians, or angle, or degrees, I'm sorry, between the positive x-axis and the ray from 0, 0 to the point of xy. So basically, just as I mentioned, it's if you had a flat lane and you had another angle, it's just the difference in there. All right. You can even run it and it'll tell you some, if you had some points that you wanted to test out, you can give it a try. We use this function both for the one line and to get the angle between two lines as well. All right. And the second thing that we're going to be using is the event target.add event listener, which basically allows us to find the points that we are clicking on each time. Okay. So let's go and take a look at the code. All right, here we go. So as you can see, this is just a basic HTML page. I have it stored as PHP, but it's just HTML. There's no PHP anywhere at all. Basic HTML, head. I just did a little bit of styling on the canvas, put a border around it so that we can see where we can play in. Then on the body, the actual body of the HTML document, all you're going to have is the canvas and the button. We just need to be able to click the button to draw the lines and find the angles, and then we need to have the canvas where to write it in. Besides that, there's not much that we need. Of course, if you're making a more sophisticated application, there's going to be more to it. But at this point, we just, as a basic example, that's all we need. Then we're going to go into a JavaScript. I'm loading the JavaScript after the content. And basically in here, what I'm doing is I'm going, first of all, I'm grabbing that canvas, I'm storing it in a variable. After I store that in a variable, then I need to get the context of that canvas and store that in a variable. That's going to be the second step. With that context, we're pretty much going to be doing all of the work. You know, the canvas is there, but we need the context, and then we're going to be writing into the context, which is, you know, it's going to show it into the canvas. I'm just doing a little bit of styling. I'm adding a white background to the canvas, and the way that it works is, you know, we change the fill style to white, make it a white color, and then we use the fill rect function, which again is already a context function that's available. We start the rectangle at the 0 point, and then we make it as wide as the canvas and as high as the canvas. That way, you know, it's you know, that background. After that, we're going to be changing the fill style to black, because if you try to write a line or do anything, then it's going to be it's going to keep showing white, so you're not going to be able to see it. So make sure you change that fill style back to black or another color. Then we need to set our initial variables. You know, now that the canvas is all done, we can start actually working on, you know, getting the line situation figured out. We need a variable where we're going to be storing the points of the line, so that we can go back to them and reuse them. We need to get the point that we are starting from. I was working on a little bit more complicated application where you can do a continuous line, and you never stop doing the line, but each time that it draws a new line, it's gonna find the angle for those two lines. So that's why we need to know at what point we're at in case we need to do that. For this example, you know, it's probably not going to be needed, but it's always it's a good implementation to have. Point number, you know, what point are we in at this time? You know, it's the first point, second point, third point, fourth point, you know, whichever one. This two variables, point 1x and point 1y, that's basically when we're drawing a line. We need to store the value of the first point, so that when the user clicks the second point, then we use those 2 points to create the line. So we just need to store them somewhere. You can't reuse them from the points object, but you know, I just thought it was going to be a little bit simpler this way to explain. And we need to set, you know, are we drawing a line currently? This is basically what's going to tell us if drawing the line is active or inactive. That's what the variable does. So at this point it's false, because we're not drawing any line when the page loads. When the user clicks on the canvas, we need to store those points first before we actually do anything with them. You know, before we store them in the points object, or you know, we draw a line or whatever, we first need to store those points temporarily in an object, so that we can then access them on all of our functions, and you know, we can do whatever is necessary with them. So that's basically the setup. You know, those are all the variables that we're going to be needing at this point to get it started. Then we're going to go to the functions. Basically, we have two functions to find the angles. One is to find one line angle, and one is to find the angle between two lines. Let's start with the easy one, finding the angle of the last drawn line. It's a function that's going to be called, and we need to provide the 2 points as you saw in the documentation, which are basically being provided here. Then with that, you know, it's kind of does its thing, and it's going to tell you the exact value of it. We are subtracting the positions just so that we can get the difference on the angle itself. Alrighty, so this is a little bit more math that I guess I know, you know, further back into JavaScript. I just know the function is there and it does most of the work for us, so I'm happy with that. And then we're going to be finding also the angle between two lines, so we create a different functions for that. In this one, then we're going to be passing the first point that we wanted to grab from. So again, if you have multiple lines, then we know which line it's going to be from. And all we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting that initial point, it's x and y value, and the same thing like we did over here. Then we're going to be subtracting it from the second point, the second x and y point. In this scenario though, we need to get the same information for both of the lines, so we're going to do that twice, and then we're going to pass that information over to the JavaScript function. There's a little bit more math going in there. Again, not all my expertise with this function. It's just good that it does the work for us. We're basically multiplying the lines, the line points first, and then subtracting them, the x and the y's, and basically putting it out together to provide them for the 2 points for the function to handle. And then we're going to be handling that degree so that it's in a 180 degree display, so that we can display it as a user-friendly number. And then basically we're just logging that information. These two functions are going to be the main ones to find the angle. So if you need to know how to find angles online, that's for one line, that's for two lines. You can implement it in different ways. You don't necessarily need to have a canvas in there. It can just be multiple points that you have, maybe on an image or something like that. So how does the drawing actually work? Basically, we're going to have a couple functions for that. The first one's going to be set position. This is going to set the position over click. If I click it right here, then it's going to say x whatever, y whatever, and it's going to be stored on the pause object that was set up before. All right, so anytime that we're clicking, it's going to be setting the position. We did add the event listeners for the mouse down and mouse enter. That way it's going to set the new position in the object so that we can use it as needed. The second function that we're going to be needing is to see if the user wants to draw something or not. Usually the canvas is going to be listening to all of our events, so we need to have a way to turn them on enough. You can add and remove the event listener, but sometimes that causes a little bit of a complication with older browsers. So I would recommend, this seems to be a more reliable way. Basically, we just have a variable that we're changing the boolean either true or false, and then each time that we're running the function to draw the line, we're checking to see if it's true or false. If it's not true, then we return, we cancel. So that's basically what that does. Then we have the third function, which is actually drawing the lines. On this function, we gotta make sure that the left button is clicked, so we just don't want any button to be clicked on the mouse. We want to make sure that the variable, the line draw count is set to true, so the user is actually wanting to draw something on the canvas. You can log the result of that just if you want to make sure that the application is working properly. This is not really necessary. That's just for debugging. And then we're gonna start actually setting up to draw the line. Again, as I mentioned, we're gonna be using the context of the canvas for all this. We're gonna begin a path. We're gonna set the line width. In this case, it's 3. We want to set the style. In this case is round. And we want to set the stroke style, which is this color. It's like a brownish color. So if the starting point is 0, the first thing that we're gonna do, because you know, when you have the first point, you can't really draw a line with one point. So as I mentioned before, you need to click it somewhere, you need to store that, when you need to click somewhere else, and then we can actually draw a line between 2 points. So if it's the first point, all we're going to be doing, you know, we're going to be getting the position at that time, and then we're going to be storing that point into the points object. And as I mentioned, we're going to be storing separately on another variable just to make it a little bit easier, you know, for temporary, as a temporary fix, so that when we draw the line, you know exactly what's going on. So, you know, we store them in there as well. And then we're going to be increasing by 1 point now, which basically, you know, it's going to be the second point. It's not going to be the first point. So, you know, then instead of point it being 0, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, or whatever. So that's going to be this else statement. So if the number is not 0, we still need to get the position of the mouse. You know, this is going to be the second click. So we need to, where the user clicks for the second time, we need to grab that information. Then we need to store that information into the points object, and basically then we're going to be starting to draw the line. We're going to be drawing it from the position that it's currently at to the previous position. So move to, you know, the first points that we had retrieved, line 2 where it's going to, then the current coordinates, and draw the line. So it's going to draw a stroke line between the move to and the line to positions that we provided. Because we already have 2 points at this time. I'm sorry, 2 points for a line at this time. Then we can find the angle for that line. You know, every time the user clicks 2 times, each line is going to be different. So each line is going to tell us the angle on how to do that. Again, you know, you can implement it whatever time you need it. This is just, you know, as an example. Once that that line has been set up, then we need to set up for the second point. Basically, how this is going to work is we're going to turn the first point of the line to be that second point. So remember when it was the first click, it was, let's say, down here. You have another one here. But then you want to click a third one, so we need to change this point to be the second point to be the first point now, and the third point to be the second point. So that's why we're storing that information on the variables we're using to draw the line. And basically after that, we're going to be checking to see if we have 2 lines, because at this point we're only doing it, you know, to keep the example a little bit simpler. We're just, you know, doing the angle between 2 lines. As I mentioned before, you can do multiple lines, but let's say we're doing 2 lines. So if the point num equals 2, then at that point it's when we 2, which basically means 3 points. Remember, it starts at 0. Then at that point we are going to be ending the line. You know, we only want 2 lines. We're going to be ending the line. We're going to be logging that to the user so that he knows that the line has ended, and then we're just changing that variable that controls everything, as I mentioned, to false. That way, when the user tries to click again, it's going to be false. It's not going to do anything. And we're changing the starting point to 0. Why are we doing that? Again, well, first of all, as of now, you know, if you try to draw a second line, then we want to restart everything. You know, that way you can do 2 lines, you know, 2 separate 2 line angles, finding angles, I guess, or multiple. But also, you know, it uses it for the function, so that it's always going back to position 0. So it's basically just resetting itself so that everything works properly. After everything has been reset, then we can find the angle between those 2 lines, starting from point 0. You know, so it's gonna go from point 0, 1, and then you're gonna have 1, 2, 3 points, which are technically 4 points because it's 2 lines, and that's what you're using to find the angles of the 2 lines. And if it's not 2, because you need it to be in odd increments, you know, it's just the if statement on this one's a little different. But if you want to look, if you want to do a continuous line and you want to keep checking, you just want to make sure that it's an odd number each time, and then on that you can find the angle. But if it's not, then you can just increase the point by 1. And that's about it. So the most technical part is not really how to draw the lines. You can find that online in a lot of places. So if you have issues with that, look in Google. But the tricky thing is, getting the correct function and knowing where to call them and how to store the information. So hopefully this helps you out a little bit. Again, most of these functions you can find the documentation on online, and that way you can learn a little bit more about what they do. So let's just do another line. See, so you can do multiple lines, as I mentioned. That's why we are resetting the code so that you can do this. But if you want to, you can do continuous. You just have to code it up properly. MDN Web Docs from Mozilla, super good website. If you have any questions about any of the details about what the function's done, you can go in here and see exactly how it's done, how to do it, what you need to provide in order to do it. But mostly with the information that I provide you, it should be we should be okay. One thing to consider is this is just when you provide one point, you will notice that we have other functions in our code. That's basically because we're getting the angle between 2 points, between 4 points. So that's the difference in there. All right. So that's about it for today. Once again, I'm Gilbert with Interactive Utopia. If you like this video, please do subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comment box below. And if you need any assistance with your projects, definitely let me know. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one.